Alright, how do I describe this video? How does first proper slop of 2025 sound? It's about a proper ex-post that went viral. Made the news even. I say news, tabloid rags and whinging wankers. You know how it is. But singer Olly Murs went and did this grueling 12-week gym transformation, and someone posted the before and after progress pics, which seems to have divided opinion between those who have actual real-world experience and those who are full of shit. That is my humble opinion. With the poll asking, does he look better before or after? And as you can see here, we have a polling disparity, almost 5,000 votes. Quite a small sample size considering the post, but anyway, 42.6% of men said after, naturally, because he does, versus 26.8% of women who said before, and only 7% of women said after. But the post that went massively viral was this 86 million monster asking, why are women lying about this? What's the actual cause? Now, a couple of things I wanted to know when I first saw this poll, namely, the weight range of the women who said they want the first guy, and are they on birth control? Because I will bet you we will see some heavy-ass chonkers in the former. Now, I am by no means an expert on women, a gifted amateur maybe. I think most guys who try to be end up hating them and drastically lose patience. So I'm getting there. All joking aside though, yes, women aren't all the same, they don't think the same, etc., all that cliched bullshit, yada yada yada. However, stereotypes do exist for a fucking reason, and a couple of things about women are damn near universal. Talking to a woman one-on-one versus when in a group, you may as well be talking to two different people. Women are social creatures and are overwhelmingly driven by group consensus. For example, women don't know what they want. Until they see what other people want, then they want that thing. Because according to group consensus, that thing now has value. What a woman says what they want versus what they actually want are two entirely different things. If women's stated desires were as is, well, they wouldn't be such a headache trying to understand. They're basically a Rubik's Cube that changes colors every time they're out of sight. Because here's the thing though, speaking as a dude who works out and who eats religiously well, we see the before and after pics and go, whoa, fair play to your son. We see iron will, we see dedication, discipline, hell of an effort. We look at that and see function. We recognize that we won't look exactly like that, but we know how we could look if we put in the effort. Especially if we already have, you respect the journey. And Olly is 40 years old. Being the best shape of your life at 40 years old is no easy task. Again, fair play to your son. The main emphasis is on the body, it's on the physique, it's on the transformation. Then you see these wankers who talk about, oh, his face looks too lean, his hairline looks receded, oh, it's the lighting. Basically looking at everything except the physique. Twats. If you're someone who commented on the lighting, you're a fucking idiot. Anyone who's looked at a bodybuilding show or even just understands how shadows work knows that lighting is designed to produce shadows, which contrasts and makes muscle definition pop. The lighting is deliberate, you ignorant weasels. My immediate reaction was a color calibration is complete arse. In fact, here it is properly calibrated. See? Now he looks normal. I'll even Photoshop one with the face on the left-hand side just for the shits and giggles. Although I could do a better job with the shadows, admittedly, but anyway. One thing that bugged me, scrolling through the comments, reading the coping dimwits who weren't focusing on what he actually accomplished, you can tell on the left-hand side there, he hasn't done shit. On the right-hand side, though, he looks fresh off a workout, possibly like he just strolled out the damn sauna. And when you focus on all of these things that are just in this moment, you come across like an idiot who can't seem to conceptualize a scenario where he doesn't look exactly like this. Ask any guy who's been skinny and added some muscle to his frame, or a former fatty who got leaner. There is not a single one of them that will tell you their former condition got them more female attention. Why do you think that is? Give me a fucking break. Who are you people trying to fool here? This is why I said earlier, the division is between those who have real-world experience versus those who are full of shit. Because anyone not up their own ass damn well knows if these two bodies went to the beach, the guy on the right would get far more attention. In fact, here's a monthly progress pic from his Instagram. Same pose, same lighting, same location. This is from March, mind you. That's 60 days. So to all the idiots who said, oh, he got too lean, he lost muscle, he doesn't look as wide, that is objectively not true. Cope harder, you lazy-ass bunch of bastards. I strongly suspect most of the naysayers wouldn't know a gym if it drop-kicked them square in the tits. They wouldn't know heavy-ass weights if their lives depended on it. Oh, and speaking of that, Sargon decided to weigh in on this in a video called Women Aren't Lying About This Photo. Now, there's two ways to look at those who doubt the polling veracity. there's a massively underrepresented case of the 7% in the real world that aren't represented on X, which fuels a disbelief. They go by real world experience, hence why they think women are talking out their ass. Fair enough. However, having said that, maybe I can offer up an alternative hypothesis by being really gay and using math. Most women are not 8 to 10s, they are rarer, as more valuable things tend to be. The upper class of women that will likely like that kind of figure, live a similar lifestyle, and therefore believe they deserve the kind of guy that puts in the effort to achieve that body, they will very likely be in that 7%. And that's the kind of bracket you're going to be shooting for anyway. I would rather shoot for a smaller pool containing a higher volume of objectively fitter women than just a larger pool of objectively larger women. The point being, find out what the highest quality desires, not what the highest quantity desires. You want the handcrafted, not the mass-produced. Now, as far as Sargon is concerned, I will give him credit for losing weight over the years. Well done to him. However, that is where my kindness ends, because all I could hear in this take was the rationality of a coping fat boy. Please do him the courtesy of watching his whole video. I'm only going to be bringing up snippets here and there, because the video would be like an hour long if I went through all of it, and again, I don't have the patience. I think I show myself to be more than fair. I don't clip people out of context, so let's see what he has to say.
Put him in the sun with an angle and he looks significantly better. That's true, but I still think women generally would prefer the guy on the left. For reasons that are actually not related to the looks, as it were. Because men are, of course, very visual creatures. We are very concerned with how things look. And if there's one thing I've learned as a not very fit, not very good-looking guy who's always had girlfriends, is that women's concern about your looks is actually a reasonably small proportion of whether they find you attractive. And I know that there are going to be people who say, no, that's not true. And I promise you, bro, that is absolutely true.
No, it isn't. And you can fuck off, mate. So much of what he just said is a total ass of wank. Listen to that first part again. Women would prefer the guy on the left for reasons that are actually not related to looks, as it were. The only variable you have here are the looks. It doesn't make any fucking sense. What the hell are you talking about? You're telling me the most superficial gender is unconcerned with looks? Are you out of your freaking mind, mate? The reason why this pisses me off so much, aside from the fact that it doesn't make any sense, is it's not true. And I don't know why we have to pretend like it is either. Women are always drawn to at least a couple of these 5 things: looks, power, wealth, status, or competence. There's nothing objectively wrong or bad about this either. These are just observations.
And so doing something like this is actually kind of pointless. And I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but if you're asking women their opinion on things, then you're kind of failing to be what women really want. Men should really, in a way, sort of be the opinion formers for women. And I don't know how I'm going to properly defend this, but I really think that's probably true.
Yeah, I do agree with him on that, although I'm probably going to defend it for different reasons, though.
Like I said, a lot of things don't come down to looks for women. So when a man sees this, he sees a guy who on the right who has worked hard and got himself absolutely ripped. He's gonna be a Spartan warrior now, and that's great in our minds. Obviously, that's a competitive thing that we can look at and say, right, there is something objective here that we can grade, by which we can compare ourselves.
Now, you see, I find Sargon's interpretation of the numbers through group assumption fascinating, because it would never occur to me to do that. Oddly enough, because I think it's too arrogant, which I know is rather rich coming from me. But as a fitness guy, I look at this and I see effort. I see dedication, willpower. What I see is the completed journey. What's impressive then is the process and not just the final product, because we're familiar with it. There's an element of relatability.
I don't think that's what women are thinking. I think what women are thinking is...
Okay, chaps, word of advice for you all. If you ever catch yourself saying, I think what women are thinking, cease speaking immediately. The chances of you saying something erroneous is extremely likely. Hell, I know a fair few women, if I ask them, do you think men can accurately assess what you ladies are thinking? They would straight up laugh and say, no, because we don't know what the hell we're thinking half the time either. I think if you said, I think how women feel, that one is maybe believable. But this, no, this is a drunk stumbling into a minefield. Oh, and speaking of a drunk stumbling, explain to me why you're concerned with what women are thinking when you just said a few moments ago, this endeavor is ultimately pointless because men need to be the opinion setters for women. I'm not even trying to be a smartass going for a gotcha here. Okay, maybe a little, but I'm genuinely curious, how do you square that with what you just said?
This guy looks more self-obsessed. This guy looks like he thinks about himself way more than he's going to think about me. And I think that if there's one thing that women really actually want, it's to be the very focus of your attention. It's to be the center of your thoughts. It's to be the thing that you think about when they're not present. And this guy on the right doesn't look like his girlfriend or wife or whoever is going to be the person that he's thinking about when she's not there. He is going to be thinking about himself as far as they're concerned.
Sargon, did you listen back to yourself when you spoke about this? Do you realize what it sounds like you're implying? This ripped guy looks self-obsessed, thinking about himself. He should be thinking about me. Who is really the self-obsessed one in this scenario? At least the guy's making an objective improvement to feed his ego, whereas the woman just sounds like an attention-seeking wench. Starting to understand why Harry got annoyed by this poll. I don't know if this is how Sargon genuinely thinks women are rationalizing this bullshit, but from my perspective, it sounds like an assumption based on the current perception of gym selfie culture, and that's basically it. I could understand the perception if, say, the guy had a collage of photos flexing, because there's definitely an element of the current gym scene. Attention-seeking culture and social media has ruined the gym for many people, but that's a whole nother video. But to assume all of this from one set of progress pictures, that just comes across as bizarre to me. We used to be a society that made fun of fat people and praised weight loss. Now getting in better shape is seen as self-obsession and narcissism. Since when the hell did self-improvement become a damn problem? Oh yeah, when the West started to venerate equality over everything else. Lads, if you find yourself with women who are put off by this kind of behavior, drop them immediately. Find yourself a woman that actually appreciates your standards and not one that's threatened by the fact that you have any at all.
Because it genuinely, right, one of the just most perennial pieces of dating advice, because I'm married, so I get asked for dating advice all the time. I'm not great at dating advice because my wife chose me, basically. That's
not exactly selling us on the expertise there, mate. Where are you going with this? And based on that, we should listen to anything else you have to say on this matter. Why? So far, this is a tad inconsistent.
One of the perennial pieces of advice is do things that are romantic and surprise her, right? If you do something that makes her, when like literally just come home with flowers one day and just, give them to your wife, give them to your girlfriend.
Let's be honest here, shall we? If you come home with flowers nowadays, the first response you're going to get is, what did you do? Come on, tell me I'm lying.
She'll be thrilled, because she'll know then that you were thinking of her when you weren't there. Because what she wants is to be the object of your affections.
This is relationship advice. This is not dating advice. Now, this scenario assumes you already have the girl and you're trying to show affection or something. This has nothing to do with the progress pic we're supposed to be looking at. What the hell are you talking about, and how did we get here?
This is what most of women's romance literature is about. This is what all of Twilight's about. This is what all of 50 Shades of Grey is about. The point is the men are so obsessed with the woman that they can't control themselves. They can't stop thinking about her. They are completely intoxicated with her. She is intrinsically so attractive that they have to move heaven and earth for her. And that, I think, really is what women are... That's like the apex of women's romance.
Sargon, how have you been on the internet this long and you don't even know memes about women's romance novels? Have you ever overheard women talking about sex? I have. It's disgusting. I'm still violated to this very day. I can't speak for Twilight, which was aimed at teenage girls, by the way. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't feature a handsome, power-driven control freak who has more money than sense. Women do not desire obsession across the board. They fantasize about that behavior from a fictional ideal. And when it's brought into being, it goes off the bloody rails. And a friend of mine brought up the reason why, and she's a genius for pointing this out. Even though they're indulging in a fantasy about a man in control, the reader still controls the fantasy. Reading, he grips her neck, she will determine how tight the grip is in her head. In person, yeah, not so much. Women fantasize about behavior that the average man would never get away with in a million years. What does that tell you? Why the hell he brought novels into this, God only knows.
And I think that's the reason these books sell millions and millions and millions of copies. And the guy on the right doesn't look like that guy.
Sargon, go look at Jamie Dornan's physique in 50 Shades of Grey. In fact, go read the book and tell me which photo is closer to the description of his physique. If it's a fantasy, why the hell would they choose the physique on the left over the one on the right? Hey, come on, this is fucking stupid.
Now, I'm not saying that on the sort of small percentage, the sort of like 10 or 15% of women's priorities, that is good looks, like ultra chiseled and all that. I'm not saying he's not doing a good job here. He absolutely is. But I do think there's a kind of balancing act here with women who think that this guy is probably, I think they think he's probably got a series of other traits that are negative for them. And this is something that people have noticed. Like, this is an article from Emil Kierkegaard, and he's talking about this very phenomenon. And when asked, like, women tend to go for, and overwhelmingly so, the Brad Pitt torso from Fight Club, which is strong, he's muscular, but he's lean, right? And he's just got good sort of T-shaped body. And it's men who go for the ultra-ripped, muscular guy who looks like Conan the Barbarian. Most women don't go for that. There are, of course, some women who do, but most don't. Most go for something that looks kind of natural, so it looks like he's leading an active lifestyle. It doesn't look like he spends all of his time in the gym. And again, so...
Okay. I know I shouldn't take him literally, but everything he just said pisses me off. Strong beats muscle bound. I know the message, but my lord, the messenger is an idiot. To have a picture of Frank Zane and use him in comparison to ultra-ripped Conan the Barbarian is just... Arnie was well north of 200 pounds for Conan. In fact, he actually had to get up to 12% body fat. He had to get fatter for the role because coming in fresh off Mr. Olympia, he was too muscular. Frank Zane, on the other hand, was one of the smallest Mr. Olympias, coming in under 200 pounds. He was not known for mass, he was known for shape. He's one of the all-time greats of the Golden Age for that very reason. In fact, let's take a look at Frank Zane. This is Frank Zane. Are you telling me this is freaky compared to Brad Pitt in Fight Club? Do you want to know what his stats were in Fight Club? 155 at 6% body fat. Do you have any idea how stupid you look, suggesting women don't like Olly's physique because he looks like someone who spends far too much time on himself or in the gym, but they want the guy with 6% body fat? Does it ever occur to you that maybe they like Brad Pitt because it's Brad Pitt, just out of curiosity? Let me explain this to you all. To gain mass, the need is to spend fewer hours in the gym, but lift heavy-ass weight because you want to simply stimulate the muscle into growth. You don't spend hours in the gym pounding weight because you're needlessly burning calories you could use to build the muscle. As a matter of fact, the stronger you get, you're going to be at the gym less frequently because as you lift heavier weights, you're increasing the stress on your body, so your recovery period between workouts will increase as well, or else you'll just burn out. I would say the overwhelming reason most people stop making progress in the gym is because they simply work out too much. Remember, muscles are planned in the gym, fueled in the kitchen, built in the bedroom. Your body builds muscle when you sleep. To get leaner, it's primarily dieting, caloric deficit. You can't outrun a shit diet, ever. For building muscle, it's the opposite. You need a caloric surplus. Hell, both require disciplined eating. It's just quantity variations. If I hear someone spends hours in the gym, my immediate reaction is either you enjoy the feeling of lifting weights, but you don't lift heavy, or you don't know what the hell you're doing. So much of what he just said here is either personal ignorance or speaking on behalf of people assumed to be ignorant.
I think they're picturing how much of his life they will be involved in. And if you've got a really narcissistic, self-obsessed body type that's only possible through that kind of lifestyle, I think a lot of women do genuinely find that to be a bit of a turn-off.
Recall what I said earlier, that it sounds more like someone throwing an assumption based on the current perception of gym selfie culture, and that's basically it? Listen to that again.
I think they're picturing how much of his life they will be involved in. And if you've got a really narcissistic, self-obsessed body type that's only possible through that kind of lifestyle, I think a lot of women do genuinely find that to be a bit of a turn-off.
Tell me I'm not right on the bloody money. So let me get this straight, Sargon. According to you, on the one hand, women want a man that looks like Brad Pitt instead of Conan the Barbarian. But on the other hand, women also want a man who looks more natural and doesn't spend hours in the gym when the leanness does not require that, and the leanness is 6% body fat. Can I just remind you all, his video, which is wildly departed any connection to the poll, by the way, his claim was women would prefer the guy on the left for reasons that are actually not related to looks. And yet the premise for his entire argument is nothing but this elaborate construction of what he assumes women think of this man, or any men with this body type for that matter, which isn't based on anything other than this appearance. What he spends a large bulk of the time talking about here is what keeps a woman, whereas the picture is about what draws a woman. That's not the same thing, and the assumptions are nothing but projection. I'm going to say this in the most polite way possible, but please, stick to politics, because this is really not your wheelhouse, and my God, it shows.
I think they're picturing how much of his life they will be involved in, and if you've got a really narcissistic, self-obsessed body type that's only possible through that kind of lifestyle, I think a lot of women do genuinely find that to be a bit of a turn-off. And I think that the aesthetic of it as well, again, very much appeals to men. It does seem to be the case that most women are not into that, at least when they're making a judgment for a partner. Now, it might be different if they're making a judgment for a one-night stand, but when they're looking for someone for whom they can be involved in a long-term romantic relationship, well, I mean, they just don't ever choose that. They will tell you this is what they would prefer otherwise. Now, like I said, I actually don't think that asking women their opinions on these things is all that good, because frankly, I think women's opinions change based on how they feel. I mean, everyone's opinions change on how they feel, but I think women are far more prone to this lack of objective standard. Because, I mean, honestly, huge amounts of whether a woman is into you is about how you make her feel when you're dealing with her. And so charisma is a much bigger factor in whether a woman is interested in you than the way you look.
Hey, Sargon, you know what helps your charisma? Knowing when you lose your shirt, you lose sense and start drooling because her mind's in the gutter. You know you got boss prowess if you can make a woman shut up without even saying a word. Huge amounts of whether a woman is into you is how you make her feel when you're dealing with her. Yeah, no shit, mate. Never mind the fact that's literally every human interaction ever. Do you not think how you look is going to have some impact on how you feel, and thus contribute to your confidence and or charisma? Need to insert a raging buffalo meme over here. All joking aside though, what he said about feelings is true, but it's so vague and one-dimensional, I don't even know where to begin. It's presented as if there's concrete results you can get from doing something. But like I said earlier, women don't know what they think half the time, and if they're running on feelings, trust me, they don't know why then either. I'll give an example, right? There was a video of this girl. It starts with her openly admitting she thinks something is wrong with her. Hats off for the honesty, by the way. She's been on 3 dates with this guy. He's tall, handsome, and successful. He's a doctor. He ticks all the right boxes, and she isn't into him at all. And what's more, she cannot articulate as to why she feels that way. Just maybe that he's too nice. Another dimension he doesn't mention, which sounds weird now that I said that out loud, is not just about how you make a woman feel directly, but how they feel about you based on how you interact with the world around you or how it interacts with you. Again, I'll give an example. Woman says that she knew this guy, always liked her, but she wouldn't give him the time of day. But then she learned he moved on and no longer cares about her. I don't quite remember if he found someone else or whatever, but now she can't stop thinking about this man. Now this man lives rent-free in her head and she has no idea why. I can tell you why. It's because she values feeling desired. The moment it went away, she felt devalued, which means she didn't care at all about the guy. No, what she longs for was the feeling of being desired. How you make a woman feel is Russian roulette, let's be honest. I better end this because at this point I feel like I'm beating a dead horse to glue over here. So let me just go full scorched earth and debunk this stupid poll once and for all. Right? Look at Hollywood. Look at the shirtless men that puts ass in seats. Jason Momoa, Jason Statham, Chris Hemsworth, Henry Cavill. How do they look? Oh yeah, built brick shithouses. Don't give me this fucking crap that women don't like muscle. Yes, they do. And anyone who says otherwise is high as a kite huffing copium. A woman is biologically hardwired to notice a chiseled jaw, wide shoulders, strong arms, and a set of abs because it shows you have testosterone, discipline, with a capacity for violence, ergo you can protect her. A woman's attraction to you is damn near always first and foremost a compelling primal urge to breed. Your job is not to bring her a smile, no, your job is to bring her to her knees. Which is fun to do, especially when she's drooling anyway. Cheers for watching. Once again, I apologize for nothing.